Hey, it feels different, right?
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Fantasy Sports. As you can probably tell, I'm a little burnt in the face, so if you're wondering why I'm so red, it's because I was outside getting some nice sun, and my face is now unfortunately paying the price for that. But I appreciate you guys staying with me after I did not have an episode last week. I was, really focusing on school as well as just making sure I was caught up before this week in terms of finals and, all the work that I had. But I'm happy to say I'm doing really, really well, and there's nothing really to worry about. I've been really cracking the books. And today I'm going to get into an episode before my final episode, or before the episode. Obviously, the next week will be my last week here at Ithaca before I go back home, and I'll be ready for my senior year next year. Next week I'll be having Oscar on, and we'll be sitting outside doing a podcast. Some maybe you guys could see the house that I've been living in this whole year. Obviously, you've only been able to see parts of my room, but I'll be focusing on making sure you guys can enjoy a podcast with someone who I've been spent most of my time with here and talking about sports. But I want to get into some basketball. Obviously, the basketball, the playoffs in basketball have been crazy. I've been able to enjoy most of them, especially the Knicks series. Like I said, my roommates are big Knicks fans, and a lot of my friends up here are Knicks fans. So I've been really keeping in tune with Jalen Brunson and how they've been playing, and they've been playing exceptional. Obviously, we saw Jalen Brunson drop 40, while Tyrese Halliburton only had I think 6 or 7. I think he had 6 points the other night, and that's been a really fun series to watch, as well as the first series that I was able to watch with the Knicks. But I'm just going to take series by series, as well as the fact that the first couple games, happened on May 7th, or what was that, yesterday. Obviously, there's some matchups here that I'm more excited for than others. I know I am very upset that the Los Angeles Clippers wound up taking a loss, and James Harden's out of the playoffs. But the Mavericks do look like the better team. They do definitely look like the better team. Obviously, they were dominated in the opener for the series. They won 117-95. I think it was pretty competitive at the start. It was tied at one point. Obviously, I believe the Thunder wound up just kind of capitalizing on the second half. They wound up having a double-digit lead at one point. Shai had 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists, almost a 30-point triple-double. And Chet Holmgren followed up with 19.7 rebounds and 2 steals and 3 blocks. As well as who I believe to be the second best player. I was getting into this little argument the other day about who is the second best player on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I said it was Jalen Williams. Obviously, last night, I think, Chet Holmgren probably played just as well, if not better, than Jalen. Jalen had 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 5 assists and a block. So it's kind of neck and neck. I believe Jalen Williams is a better second option. I believe he's just a better player. I don't know because they're such different positions, obviously, that both of them play. But I see Jalen Williams being the more focal point when it comes to scoring, especially when it comes down to the bigger games. Jalen Williams played very, very good that first series. And he's been playing very, very good this year, especially being pretty young, and obviously Chet is in his first season, and he's playing fantastic. But the Mavericks looked a little weak on the terms of what Luka did. Luka played well, obviously, but he didn't have statistics that he normally does. He only had 19 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, and Kyrie had 20 points, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Obviously, Luka had more in the box score than Kyrie did, but Kyrie obviously led the team in scoring. I think this is a series that could get ugly quick if the Thunder continue to play they did. Obviously, the Mavericks were at OKC, and they're going to be there again tomorrow. But I don't know how it's going to turn out when they wind up going over to Dallas. I know it's one of those things where, does home court advantage matter that much? And I don't think it ever really does. But I think maybe in this series it could be the defining factor. I don't know, but I know that OKC played extremely well in the first night of basketball. They played really, really good defense, which is something I don't really expect from them a lot. Lou Dort, especially matching up against Kyrie and then matching up against Luka, he did a very good job defending both of them on the ball, as well as off the ball. I mean, he was rolling around screens well, and honestly, it's majority of the fact that they have Lou and Chet. Chet does very good well defending these guards, and he is not slow on his feet, which is extremely important for these two people. Both players who definitely can dominate if they don't play the right way around these players or these two who constantly are rolling around screens. And in the other game one that was played yesterday, obviously Celtics pretty much I wouldn't say destroyed, but they, had their way with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They won 120-95 in game one. I think it's interesting because Cleveland looked tired. I mean, obviously they played a 7-game series, and the Celtics had a very, very long rest. They had a 40-34 lead in the first quarter. I mean, at one point they were down by 15 points, Cleveland, and the final 12 minutes started, and the Celtics just honestly closed it out. I know a big thing for this game is what the rest of the team is going to be able to do other than Donovan Mitchell. He was able to have, I think he had 33 points and like 6 assists. But it was Jaylen Brown who really played very well. And I know it's extremely talked about in the playoffs when it comes to how Jason Tatum played. He had an 18-point, 11-board double-double. He played extremely well. And I believe the thing about the Celtics is they're such a team effort. They play so well, and it's always someone else a different night. Derek White was extremely good in the first series. Last night, Jrue Holiday played extremely well. He had 14 points, and Peyton Pritchard had 16. They shot 48% from the field. Just a lot of stuff that the Celtics are doing that's very team-oriented. It's more or less they're going to be the better team, and they continue to stay hot from three. I know that's something that was very important. They obviously set the record in their first series against the Heat for most three-pointers made in a playoff game. And again, they shot 40% from three last night. I think more often than not with the Celtics, it's what can't they do than what can they do. And I think in this series, it's going to be more or less what can't they do to prevent from, and I think they're doing a well job about it already. Donovan Mitchell had 33 points, and they still blew them out. You know what I mean? He had a third of their points, and they blew them out. So I just am excited and also questioning whether or not the rest of the team is going to be able to step up. But right now it looks like this, more or less for the Dallas Mavericks and OKC, because both those teams are really, really good. And I think Dallas could obviously make it a series. I don't know if Cleveland's going to be able to make it a series against Boston. For the other, two series that are going on, we've been able to see a little bit more of those. Obviously, we saw the Knicks play the other night as well, and they more or less, wouldn't say dominated that game because clearly it was so close, but I just felt like the whole game I knew the Knicks were going to win, and I saw the Knicks and I saw how they were playing, and I just felt like they were going to win. And I feel like that's kind of a common theme I have with certain teams, where I just say, like, I feel like they're going to win. But I feel like when you go out there and you see a team play and, like, you see how well they're performing and how well they've performed in the past, I felt like that was what I got out of the Knicks. I just felt like they were the stronger team, and they seemed like they were going to go out there, and no matter what happened, they were going to win that game. And most of it has to do with what Jalen Brunson has been doing. I mean, Jalen Brunson has been fantastic. He's had multiple 40-point games. I'm pretty sure he just tied Michael Jordan for a record in terms of how many I don't know if it was straight 40-point games or 40-point games in the playoffs. But obviously Jalen Brunson has been extremely special. And I don't think any of the players on the Pacers are going to be as special as he will this series. And I think that's honestly one of the biggest things that they have hanging over the Pacers' head. Pacers, I was going to say Raptors because of Pascal Siakam. But I think that Tyrese has been weak. And I think more or less that Pascal has been strong. And it's always been the opposite kind of in the whole season before leading up to them, where Pascal was really strong. Tyrese was really strong. And obviously Pascal came over and he kind of took like the upper hand on Tyrese. He kind of took over. And I think Tyrese hasn't been able to regain what he had before the injury and before Pascal came over. But I'm excited. I know a lot of people around here are excited to see the Knicks win, and I'm honestly, for the first time, seeing the Knicks make the conference finals would be fantastic. They'd obviously have to play Boston. I know I'm saying that preemptively because they're still playing against Cleveland, but I think Boston's going to win that series. So if regardless of who they play, if they do play Cleveland, I believe they'll beat Cleveland. But I think obviously Boston's going to be the biggest challenge coming out of the East. I feel like Boston, if anything, has had a pretty easy path with the Heat and then with the Cavaliers. So I'm excited to see them actually play some. I really hope the Pacers don't win because I don't want to see them play the 6th seed and beat the 4th seed, the 6th seed, and the 8th seed. That wouldn't be impressive at any rate to make the the finals. And then for the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, this is probably the most important series that's going on right now because we see the reigning champions down 2-0, and obviously the Nuggets have been one of the best teams in the NBA now for like 2-3 years. But the Timberwolves GM was the ex-GM of the Nuggets. I mean, he pretty much built the team that we saw win that championship, and it's almost like he went to the Timberwolves and built a team to beat that team. We have a very strong interior defender, a scoring big, and Anthony Edwards, who is an all-around, defensive talent. We have Jalen McDaniels, who can switch on and off, and we have Mike Conley, who's just facilitating the whole team. Obviously, it was talked about a lot in game 2 where they held and played very extreme defense on Jamal Murray. And I think going forward, what they need to do for the Nuggets especially, a lot less pick and roll. Clearly, pick and roll isn't working, and I know that's their basis for game plan, is pick and roll with Nikola and Jamal. But I think they're going to need a more spread look. I feel like saying that is coming from my mind and not Mike Malone, some coaching genius's mind, and he obviously knows better than I do what they need to do. But just looking at what they've been doing and the way they've been playing, against them, they go high on the screen every single time, and they double them really quickly, and then they have someone switch very quickly. And obviously, Jokic could probably get that pass off quick a majority of the times if he gets it through. But it's just looking like more or less they need to keep all these players outside and make sure they can get as many opportunities on the outside as they can, which is so hard for that team, especially because they're such an inside team. But then they have Rudy Gobert on the inside, and Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic, and honestly, KCP is a shooter, but he gets inside as often as he can. They're a very dominant inside rebounding defense, board crashing team, and the Timberwolves have held them in check for that account just because they have two bigs, and one of them happens to be the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. So I think it's a series that I'm very excited to see play out when they go back to Denver. But it's looking really rough for them right now, and I think the Nuggets. The Timberwolves haven't lost a game. They're 6-0 in the playoffs, and they've looked extremely good in every single game they've played except one where it was close. So I don't see a way that the Nuggets maybe make it out of this easy. Clearly, it's going to have to go to 6 games minimum if they're going to win the series. But I don't see this going to a game 7. I only see this going to a game 7 with the Nuggets if they wind up turning it around. But if not, I don't imagine it being anything closer than a game 5, game 6. I don't think the Nuggets win 1, lose 1, win 1. I think it's either the Nuggets go home and they win both, or the Nuggets are looking scared and they're not looking like they're going to obviously take the next step to go to the conference finals. But all in all, I feel like all these series are really good, other than maybe the Celtics and the Cavaliers. I feel like they're all pretty even. I'm excited for the way the Pacers-Knicks plays out, because those teams seemed really close in the first game, even though I said before I believe the Knicks were going to win the whole time. Still a really good team. Nuggets are the reigning championships. Timberwolves are really hot right now. OKC and Mavericks, I know both of those teams have been really, really good all year, and they turned it on the second half, and so I'm excited for that series. But ultimately, I'm truthfully excited for the next round, because I don't know who's going to be in it. I feel like I don't have a deciding, I don't know who's going to wind up panning out, because all these teams are so competitive, other than the Cavaliers. I don't believe the Cavaliers are going to make it to the next round. All these teams are so neck and neck and seem so competitive, especially when it's playoffs. Every team seems to have turned it up to the next level. So I'm extremely excited for that. And I hope you guys are too, because I'm excited to talk about it next week if there's anything going on and if any team has advanced. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I apologize for not having a video next week, but there will be one next week, and I hope you tune in for that. So thank you as always, and tune in next week.